Walters is the place to be this time of year, across the street from Nationals Park and near Audi Field. Open daily from 11 a.m. until 2 a.m., and on the weekends, closing time is at 3 a.m.
The McDonald's Snack Wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch Snack Wrap. Spicy Snack Wrap. You broke the internet. For a snack. Snack Wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
The left-hander coming set. He deals. Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a slider. Mitchell Parker strikes out Manny Machado to leave the bases loaded at the top of the fifth. Parker steps up big time, makes a huge pitch to get out of trouble in the fifth.
Matsui's 2-1. Lowe swings, hits a line drive to center. Merrill breaking back, still on the run. Out to the warning track, he to the fence, he jumps up. It is out of here. It's a line drive homer just to the left of dead center into the red seats. The Nationals have a 4-2 lead on Nathaniel Lowe's 15th home run of the year.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. We have a Nats win to discuss, just their 11th win since the start of June, a 4-2 win over the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park on Saturday night, in a game for which the start was delayed for an hour and 5 minutes due to rain. The Nats now are 39-59. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas, the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason has been with us since our first season. You can reach him at 202-486-3535. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like for us to deliver a shout out for you, a happy birthday, a congratulations, a happy anniversary, a get well soon. You get the idea. Hit up the man who runs this podcast, Tim Shovers. Again, that email address, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. The Nats on Saturday afternoon announced the signing of Oklahoma high school shortstop Eli Willits, who they took with the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 MLB Draft. The Nats held a press conference on Saturday afternoon, and after the presser, Nats interim general manager Mike DeBartolo, in a side session with reporters, had some rather notable things to say about his plans for the 2025 MLB trade deadline, which is coming up July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll get to what DeBartolo had to say in a bit. But, Mark, we should not take for granted what happened on Saturday night. A win, an actual Nats win, just their 11th win in 40 games since the start of June. It is nice to have a Nats win to talk about with you.
Oh, absolutely, Alan. Had they lost, I was fully prepared to share this nugget. I guess I'm glad I don't have to, although I'm going to share it anyways because they did the research on it. If they had lost, and as you said, that was their 11th win in 40 games. If they had gone 10-30 over that 40-game stretch, it would have matched the worst 40-game stretch in team history. Now, sadly, they've done that several times. You can figure out which seasons those were: 2008, 2009, 2021 after the sell-off, and 2022 when they lost 100 games. So this one doesn't join that illustrious or not so illustrious group. They pulled it out, and good for them for I'm not going to say totally clean, because there were some harrowing and ugly moments along the way, but you got clutch hits, you got a quality start, and you got ultimately zeros from the bullpen, and that was a nice formula to see for a change.
A very well-pitched game by the Nats. We have not had many of those since the start of June. Mitchell Parker was the Nats starting pitcher on Saturday night. 2 runs in 6 innings. A nice job by him. He gave up 5 hits, which were 2 doubles and 3 singles. He had 4 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He threw a lot of strikes, 82 pitches, 57 strikes, just 25 balls. So the 2 runs that Parker allowed came in the top of the 3rd. He allowed the 2 runs on a leadoff opposite field double by Jose Iglesias into right field. A 1-out RBI double by Martin Maldonado to left center field on an 0-2 pitch, and a 2-out RBI single by Luis Arraez to right center field to tie the game at 2. The RBI double by Maldonado was interesting, came on a fly ball that went off of center fielder Jacob Young in his attempt at a leaping backhanded catch. Young then crashed into the outfield wall. That did not look pleasant. Thankfully, Young appears to be okay. The other notable inning for Parker in this outing, a scoreless top of the 5th, despite him giving up 2 singles and a walk. He walked the tightrope in that inning, but Parker generated a swinging strikeout of Manny Machado with the bases loaded and 2 outs. Parker, not known for the strikeout, but he came up big in that spot in striking out Machado.
He called that the turning point of the whole game, and I think he's right. That was teetering on the brink of disaster. Could have easily been the last batter he faced if he didn't get him out. And what I found very interesting in that he struck him out, yes, and he struck him out with back-to-back sliders. Entering this game, the slider was Parker's least used pitch out of his 4 regular pitches, like 8% of the time. Even more so not used against right-handed hitters. He had only thrown 15 sliders all season to right-handed hitters, and he went back-to-back to get Machado. And as he described it afterwards, and I've heard him say things like this before, he and his catcher kind of figure out as the game's going on, what does he have on that given night? What does he not have on that given night? And very frequently, he's just down to 2 pitches that he feels that he has some confidence in. And in this game, the slider was one of them. And so it didn't matter lefty, righty, whether this is something he normally throws. He was feeling that pitch in particular. So they went back to back on it and got Machado swinging at it. That was a huge part of the game. And I think it was a big start for Mitchell Parker to do this. A guy who's been teetering for quite a while now. The ugly starts have been pretty ugly. Now, he did have a quality start in San Diego last month, able to come back and do that to them again. And then that moment where it might have all fallen apart on him, he dug deep. He found a way to get through that. I think that's a pretty big step for him. We'll see where he goes from it. But on this night, it felt like an important start for him.
In this post-All-Star break portion of the season, I think, when it comes to like what matters is how the young building blocks do. And we've talked about, Dylan Cruz, once he comes back, how important how he does is. And Brady House, how important what he does is. I think there's significance in what a Mitchell Parker does, because this is his opportunity to stake his claim to being a piece here moving forward. I tend to think of Mitchell Parker and DJ Hers in the same camp. And Parker this season has had an opportunity to create some distance between himself and Hers, because Hers is out for the year due to injury. But Parker's season has been such to where you could argue that his stock has gone down and perhaps Hers's has gone up just by being absent. Here you have Parker now, 20 starts, the ERA is at 5. If he can end the season strong and you feel better about him moving forward, then obviously that puts him in a better light. But if he continued to struggle as he had been struggling, I think you have to say to yourself, are we going to go into next season with Mitchell Parker as a part of this rotation? Probably not. I mean, we're not talking about, a top 10 pick or anything like that. So he has to do probably more than a normal pitcher. When I say normal, I mean like a first-round pitcher, because of the background where he was drafted. His performance overall has not been particularly good, but we have seen enough good to where I think it's not unreasonable to think that he might be good. And so, we'll see what he does the rest of this season. But like you, I was happy to see him do what he did in this game.
Yeah, and I think what you just described there applies to a good number of players on this team. And that is the guys who are getting an opportunity, even if they struggle, to keep playing, to keep making starts like Parker does, to keep finding their way into the lineup. That may be because others at that position are injured, or they're still waiting for somebody to come up from the minor leagues, perhaps. Whatever the reason, somebody like Mitchell Parker may not be in a position to get this opportunity in the future once the rest of the rotation is healthier. When a Josiah Gray comes back, when a DJ Hers comes back, when a Cade Cavalli potentially comes up at some point along the way. And so you had better make the most of the opportunities while you get it. It's a little different scenario, but I kind of look at Jacob Young the same way, and we've discussed this with him. All the talented young outfield prospects in the system, Young has had the opportunity to play and play every day because he came here before some of those prospects, and because, Dylan Cruz gets hurt. And so that keeps the door open for Young. So for those kind of guys, this can be an important stretch of the season as they try to hold on to the jobs they already have and convince the front office and the coaching staff that they should retain those jobs in the future, no matter who else could put themselves into the picture.
By the way, Cade Cavalli in the Rochester Red Wings 5-2 loss at the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs on Saturday. 4 runs in 5 1/3 innings. His ERA now at 5.89. Hey, are you a law firm partner or associate looking to transition to a new firm because of compensation, or your firm recently committed to $100 million in pro bono work that you disagree with? Or maybe your firm is employing people like Jurix and Profar while your competitor firms are using torpedo bats and smoking the competition. If this sounds like you should explore the lateral market and give Mason Kalfas a call. Mason is the top legal recruiter in the Washington, D.C. area. He has been a Nats Chat podcast advertiser since the beginning of our show. Mason will work with you to create a marketing and business plan to pitch to new firms and dramatically increase your compensation and or day-to-day happiness in your new job. Mason has placed partners and associates in just about every large law firm in D.C. and New York, and he can provide plenty of testimonials from candidates he has placed on the outstanding service that they received. You need a strong advocate in your corner to find the best law firm out there for your future career. Call Mason Kalfas today, 202-486-3535.
The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet. For a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Society doesn't want to talk about menopause. And when they do, they don't make it sound very pretty. So Walgreens is helping women change the perception and take back the narrative, because nothing is sexier than being in control. Menopause is confidence. Menopause is power. Menopause is hot. Let's frame menopause together. Watch the Menopause is Hot story at walgreens.com/hot.
Here's a drive to deep left center. Young on the run, going back again. Jumps up. It's off his glove as Young caroms into the padded fence in left center. Iglesias cruises home as Maldonado stops at second with a booming double. It's now 2-1 Nationals. Young on his feet, walking back to center field after he hammered into that wall.
Regarding Jacob Young, him crashing into the wall, that was a scary moment, but he does appear to be okay. Is that correct?
Yeah, he finished out the game. Everything appeared to be fine after that. I wonder, we didn't talk to him after the game, but I wonder, after he hurt his shoulder slamming into the wall in Baltimore earlier this season, if he's gotten a little more adept at taking a fall the proper way, understanding how to crash into the wall, how to brace yourself, how to avoid really the worst of it from a distance. And in real time, it looked kind of ugly, but he hopped right up and appeared to be fine. And it would have been a fantastic catch if he had somehow pulled that thing off. But in the end, it didn't feel like the catch was that important. It was the fact that he didn't get hurt and that he stayed in the game and there was no issue, because that seemed like it was very close to being not just a run-scoring hit, but another really bad injury for Jacob Young on a ball at the wall.
He is a remarkable athlete. Just to pull off that attempt takes tremendous athleticism, and that he pulled that off the way that he did, it actually is really impressive. I know he didn't make the catch, but that's one of the more impressive non-catches that you'll ever see. The way he flew through the air, ended up crashing into the wall like that. He has ample body armor. We had that picture that went viral in the lead up to the regular season with the biceps. So I would think that if there's someone who can absorb a blow like that, it probably is Jacob Young. But man, that was some scene with him crashing into the wall on Saturday night. Good game for the Nats bullpen in this 4-2 win over the Padres on Saturday night. 3 Nats relievers combined for 3 scoreless innings. Luis Garcia faced 4 batters, got 3 outs. Jose A. Ferrer in the top of the 8th faced 4 batters and got 3 outs. Now, a throwing error by catcher Drew Millis gave the Padres runners at second and third with no outs, and the Nats nursing a 4-2 lead. But Ferrer then generated 3 outs to escape the inning. Now, the second out came via a rundown of Fernando Tatis Jr. between third base and home on a play that the Nats nearly botched.
The lefty sets. Ferrer fires. Swing a tapper. This is back to the mound. Ferrer has it. He's going to throw home. They've got Tatis in a rundown. Millis throws to House, chasing him toward the plate. Throws back to Millis, chasing him toward third. And he chases him down, dives for the tag. Safe is the call. Now Arise is hung up at second. And Millis holds onto the ball. And the bases are going to be loaded.
Tatis initially was ruled safe at third, but Nats interim manager Miguel Cairo successfully challenged the safe call at third base. And Kyle Finnegan, off his implosion in Game 1 of this series, a perfect top of the 9th with 2 strikeouts for his first save since June 6th. Now, we had noted this, that he had not registered a save since June 6th, but that really is remarkable that he on Saturday night got his first save since June 6th in well over a month. Incredible.
Now, there had only been 3 save opportunities, official save opportunities. He had blown all 3. It tells you, number one, how many games the team has lost since early June. But also, as we've noted, a lot of the games that they have won have been by wider margins. And so it hasn't been technically a save opportunity. This was a rare case where he came in the 9th inning in a close game and just finished it out. But boy, was it nice to see 1, 2, 3, 2 strikeouts from the guy who we know doesn't always get the swings and misses that you'd like from a 9th inning reliever. No drama, gets out of it, erases the sting of what happened on Friday night. Good for him to get that. I'm going to go back to the 8th inning. I think that was a really important inning for Jose A. Ferrer. We have seen that when things start to go south on him, he can let it snowball from there. And when Millis throws the ball away and all of a sudden it's 2nd and 3rd with nobody out, I probably was not the only person in the ballpark thinking this is about to come undone for the Nationals. And Ferrer strikes out Manny Machado, another huge strikeout of the best hitter probably in their lineup on a changeup. And then the rundown play, they almost botched it, and Millis, somehow pulled it off. But I think the underrated part of that play, Ferrer made a really nice play to get the ball and make a good, strong throw to the plate that set up the rundown. He's maybe not Mitchell Parker bad, but he has had issues in the field. And I'd be willing to bet the Padres were sort of trying to exploit that from him, knowing that he is not comfortable in those kind of situations. So good on Ferrer for making a not a simple play to catch the ball, a good strong throw to the plate, and then setting up a rundown that thankfully they pulled off, because if that call is upheld, he's still safe at third base. Oh my God, that is complete disaster. Good for Drew Millis. He knew he had tagged him. He immediately signaled to the dugout. He never had a doubt. Laz Diaz did not get that one right, and thankfully they corrected that call, because woof, if that didn't go their way, look out.
The throw by Ferrer was especially impressive because it was one of those throws that the guy makes in the opposite direction that his body is going, which is not an easy thing to do in the moment like that. So, yeah, definitely a salute to Ferrer for his defensive work on that play. The Nats offense in this 4-2 win over the Padres on Saturday night, 4 runs on just 6 hits, which were a home run, 2 doubles, and 3 singles. The Nats worked 3 walks, went 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position. The homer came from Nathaniel Lowe. He is the Nats starting first baseman and number 5 batter, went 1 for 3 with a solo homer. Lowe in a Nats 1-run 6, a 2-out solo homer to center field for a 4-2 Nats lead. Also with a big hit in this game was Drew Millis. He is the Nats starting catcher and number 8 batter, 1 for 2 with a 2-run single. Also had a walk, a stolen base, and that throwing error. But Millis in a Nats 2-run second, a 2-out 2-run single to right center for a 2-0 Nats lead, and he had a stolen base. The Nats numbers 2 through 4 batters in this game, James Wood, Luis Garcia Jr., and Josh Bell, a combined 0 for 11 with 1 walk. As yes, James Wood's recent struggles, at least by his standards, do continue. But good to see Lowe homer. Good to see Millis come through with the 2-run single. The Nats got to Yu Darvish enough early in this game. The offense was not great, but obviously ended up being good enough to get the win.
Yeah, they probably deserved a little better. They were hitting the ball hard against Darvish and didn't have a ton to show for it. I counted 5 consecutive batters to open the second inning with loud contact. The first 2 were outs, but then Brady House singles, Dalen Lyle doubles, Drew Millis, really a clutch 2-out, 2-run single by him. He hasn't played a lot. I'll be interested to see how Miguel Cairo handles this with Keibert Ruiz still on the concussion IL. Riley Adams is going to catch Sunday. They wanted him catching MacKenzie Gore, and so that's why Millis got the start on Saturday night. Aside from the one defensive mistake, he did have a pretty good game, singled in the 2 runs, stole a base, did make the athletic play ultimately to get Tatis, so I'll be interested to see how much more we see of him. He was actually really important to them in this game. And Nathaniel Lowe, this was only his 2nd home run off a lefty this season. He's got 13 of them off righties. His track record was that he had almost identical splits, lefties and righties. It has not been the case this year. He has not done well against them. So nice to see him hit one really on the screws and drive it straight to center field over the fence for that one.
Lowe is second on the team in homers with 15. We've talked about this before, but if you don't look at his slash line and you just look at some of the more traditional counting stats, you say to yourself, Lowe's having a nice season. 15 homers, 62 runs batted in. The slash line remains so poor, though. It's crazy to me, the contrast here. 15 homers, 62 RBI, but the batting average is 231. The on-base percentage is 296. The slugging percentage is just 401. We joked a few weeks ago about how, is Nathaniel Lowe having a good season or not? I don't know. It depends on what you look at. And that still very much is the case. That's about as bad of a slash line for 15 homers and 62 RBI, less than 100 games into a regular season, as I feel like you'll ever see.
It would be if it continued. I think I brought this up at one point, maybe during that discussion in the past. There's been, as far as I could tell, only one player in Major League history who had a 25 homer, 100 RBI season with a sub 700 OPS. And that's the great Joe Pepitone of the 1964 Yankees and of Seinfeld fame. I think Kramer and Joe Pepitone got into it at fantasy camp, if I remember right. He had a 698 OPS. That's the lowest OPS I could find from anybody in history with 25 and 100. And Lowe is like right on that pace, 25 homers, like 102 RBI. We'll see how it all plays out, but it has been a very strange season for him from that standpoint. I don't know what to totally make of that. The other thing is, the home run changed us, but we were close to a point there where I think one more hit or double or extra base hit from Josh Bell, and he would have actually surpassed Nathaniel Lowe's OPS on the season. Josh Bell, who quietly has been a lot better here over the last couple months. But if I would have told you that not that long ago, that Josh Bell would be right on Nathaniel Lowe's heels in terms of OPS, I'm not sure who would have believed that to be the case.
That would have been a stunner if that would have ended up being the case. The Nats get the win, like we said. Good to see that. And the Nats have a chance at a series victory, Game 3 against the Padres at Nationals Park Sunday afternoon at 1:35. MacKenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher. More on his future with the Nats momentarily.
Make Walters your spot, not only before and after every game at Nationals Park, but Walters also is right by Audi Field, and DC United, the Washington Spirit, and the DC Defenders are all in season.
Did you know that skincare can start in the laundry room? All Free Clear is the #1 laundry detergent brand recommended by dermatologists, allergists, and pediatricians for sensitive skin. All Free Clear is 100% free of dyes and perfumes. It provides an effective clean that's gentle on skin while removing impurities like dirt and body oil without leaving irritating residues. Plus, All Free Clear Liquid is Safer Choice certified by the U.S. EPA. For a clean you can feel good about, all you need is All Free Clear.
The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet. For a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I just say I'm ready to get out there and play. I set a goal to be in the big leagues by the time I'm 20, and that's something I'm really excited to do, and hopefully I get out there and start playing well, and that can be something that I can accomplish in the next few years.
The Nats on Saturday afternoon announced the signing of Eli Willits, who they took with the #1 overall pick in the 2025 MLB Draft. We had a press conference for Willits Saturday afternoon at Nationals Park. Here, to me, is maybe the biggest item from the Willits aspect of Saturday. So we get the terms of the signing. He reportedly gets $8.2 million. That is a record for a high school player in an MLB draft, but that is far below the slot value. Now, we expected him to be cheaper than his slot value, but the slot value was $11.0759 million. Again, he's signing reportedly for $8.2 million. He signed for nearly $3 million less than his slot value. Are you surprised at how far below the slot value that number ended up coming in? We knew it would be less than the slot value, but to be nearly $3 million less, is that surprising?
I was surprised by that. I thought it would start with a 9 or maybe even a 10. I was not expecting it to start with an 8, certainly not in the low 8s as it was. I think it's pretty telling. Now, as you said, it is still the most money a high school draft pick has ever received. And he's a year younger than most. And so that may be where the Nats had some leverage. Let's point out, I know we've touched on this, but I can give a little more on this now. He's not a Scott Boras client. His agent is actually Brian Minitti. Brian Minitti is a former Nationals assistant GM from 2011 to 14. He went on to work for the Phillies and then switched over to the agency world 3 years ago. He's also Shinosuke Ogasawara's agent. And that was the connection that allowed the Nats to make that signing in the offseason. Well, he has been with the Willits family for a couple of years. So even when the kid was very young and, guided him through this process. Now, you can say that maybe he didn't do as good a job for his client as he could have, but just a little bit I was learning about on Saturday, it sounded to me like this negotiation went very smoothly and both sides were happy with it. And the fact that he has worked with Nationals ownership from their own side of the equation in the past, it sounded to me like they were very pleased and comfortable with how that process went. And so we're looking way down the line. Who knows how this all goes? But if ever there is a young player who maybe would be agreeable to locking up a longer deal early on in his career, this might be the right combination at long last of someone who, as a young player, was willing to take that lesser deal to sign and is represented by somebody who knows the organization and has worked with the ownership very well in the past and might be able to convince him of the value of going ahead and doing something like that without taking the Scott Boras approach and going all the way to free agency. We're getting way ahead of ourselves here, I understand, but I thought that was a little bit of a notable thing and something that certainly crossed my mind, that this is a different kind of situation than we've usually seen from them with their top draft picks.
And the Nats going so cheap with Eli Willits allows them to go more expensive with other picks in the draft, as we have discussed. And this strategy really is taking shape here with the Nats saving a ton of money on Willits. And this now helps to shed further light on the news that broke on Friday of what the Nats reportedly are giving their fourth-round pick, the New York high school pitcher Miguel Sema Jr., $2 million, according to MLB insider John Heyman of the New York Post, when the slot value there was, if I'm remembering correctly, something in the neighborhood of like $600,000. I mean, like a big-time overpay for him, but you're getting Willits at this bargain price. I mean, $8.2 million with the slot value being at over $11 million. So we had this press conference for Willits on Saturday afternoon. And then after the presser, Nats interim general manager Mike DeBartolo did a side session with reporters and talked about, I guess, essentially non-Eli Willits items. And the most notable thing from DeBartolo during that side session came in a back and forth with Mark. Mark asked Mike DeBartolo about his plans, about his thought process as we approach the MLB trade deadline, which again is coming up July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern. Why don't we play the back and forth? 2 questions, 2 answers. Some really interesting stuff from DeBartolo to you. Here we go.
You mentioned the young core that you have to build around. Is it safe to say that that group will remain here intact, or do you have to explore if somebody calls you?
I'm looking to keep the young core group of our best players together. Certainly in my job, if someone calls, you always listen to whatever someone has to say. But, trading away, our really high-quality young players is not something that I'm looking to do right now.
Do you believe that this organization is ready to add to what you already have with a time frame of, the next few years versus saying we have to redo the way the rebuild, went?
I would say, we're still in the evaluation process of timelines and things like that. So that's still, again, just being in the job for 2 weeks and everything, still evaluating timelines. But, I think, we're looking to just acquire young talent and just to bolster what we have and just become competitive as soon as we possibly can. But I don't want to put a timeline on it.
2 things that stuck out to me from DeBartolo to you right there. First of all, he said, quote, trading away our really high-quality young players is not something that I'm looking to do right now, end quote. That obviously would speak to the discussion that has been out there about the Nats potentially trading starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore in the lead-up to this trade deadline. But DeBartolo also told you, quote, we're still in the evaluation process of timelines, end quote. So he wasn't quite ready to say what I've been asking about, which is the rebuild salvageable or is the rebuild a failure and you need to start over? He was not in any way committing to, yeah, it's a failure or yeah, this thing is salvageable. The other thing I thought of is this, and this is sort of, maybe overthinking it, but if you were trying to trade Gore, the thing to say publicly would be that you're not trading Gore. It would be silly and foolish to say that we are trading Gore. When you say that you're not trading Gore, then you can potentially drive up the price to trade Gore. So I did wonder about that. But you asked the questions. What did you think of what DeBartolo said to you?
I will preface this by saying that, after I tweeted some of that answer, I got plenty of responses from fans who were reminding me how Mike Rizzo insisted in June of 2022 that he was not trading Juan Soto, only to go ahead and trade him. So yes, you do take a little bit of a grain of salt with that. But here's what I'll say, at least from what I gathered from Mike DeBartolo, not just in his words, but in just the way he said it, the look in his eye. This is, again, somebody that I've known for a little while. I know he's in a new position and he's got to be a little more careful with what he says, but it came across to me as genuine. And what I took away from it was not just from those answers to my questions, but over several that were kind of touching on this area of what they're going to do at the trade deadline and how he views the overall organization right now. He kept coming back to the young core, as he described it, of players, and the idea of wanting to add to that. And he said that several times. It did not sound to me like somebody who is itching to break apart that group in any way. Now, we're talking just a handful of the best players that they've built this around: James Wood, C.J. Abrams, Dylan Cruz, the top of the list. But I think MacKenzie Gore falls in that category. And he was specifically asked about Gore by someone else, and he said, yes, I consider him in that category. Now, he also prefaced everything by saying, if other teams are calling me and offering something, I'm going to listen to what they have to say, but I'm not actively initiating those kind of conversations right now. And I actually do believe him on that one. Now, we've seen a lot can happen in a span of just a few weeks. You don't know what this is going to be on July 31st. It could be different than July 19th. The big difference to me, though, between Gore 2025 and Soto 2022 is back then they were going out of their way to try to lock up Juan Soto, offering him $440 million, and he turned it down. And they were convinced at that point, it's not happening. He's not going to agree to a deal before free agency. And the state of our farm system is so bad right now that our only hope of fixing this is to trade this once-in-a-generation player and get 5 prospects in return. I don't think MacKenzie Gore falls into that kind of category. I think the farm system's in a different state right now. The state of the team is different right now. I don't think he commands nearly the same price in return that Juan Soto would provide. And so I interpreted it as, you never say never, but he's really not thinking in those terms of trading Gore or anyone else in that category. He's much more interested in trying to add to what they already have. And then where that fits in the timeline, he's not really saying, I think we're ready to win next year or the year after that, whatever. But I interpret it more as he believes they already have the foundation of something here. And the idea is to build off that. It's not a matter of we're tearing it all down again and starting all over the process.
I, on the most recent episode of my podcast, the Al Galdi podcast, if I may sneak in a cheap plug, had Barry Zverluga, columnist for the Washington Post, on as a guest. Barry very plugged into the inner workings of Nats ownership. And I asked Barry, I said, when it comes to the Nats potentially trading MacKenzie Gore, is that something that you believe Mike DeBartolo has the autonomy to do, or would that be something that ownership would have to green light? And he said, no, that would have to be something that would be green lit by ownership. And I think Barry's right about that. And I do wonder about Mike DeBartolo is the interim GM. Is the Lerner ownership group going to allow an interim GM to do something as drastic as trading MacKenzie Gore? Like, would you perhaps wait until the offseason when you have settled who the next true GM is to do something as drastic as trading Gore? Because if you do trade MacKenzie Gore, you are saying the rebuild's a failure and you are essentially hitting the reset button. And that is a harsh and severe and ultra significant step to take. This rebuild isn't working, but that doesn't mean the rebuild isn't salvageable. Personally, I'd like to see the rest of this season before deciding whether the rebuild is salvageable, but I do think it's possible that it's salvageable. If Dylan Cruz, Brady House perform well the rest of this season, say a Jake Irvin performs well, you can maybe say, okay, all is not lost here. You trade Gore, you're essentially saying all is lost, at least for right now, and you're starting over. And that is just such a drastic step to take. You don't want to take it if you don't have to take it. I don't know that they have to take it, even though I get it. This season has been a terrible disappointment up until this point. So I don't know that there would be any harm in at least waiting until the offseason to do something like trading MacKenzie Gore, if you're going to trade him at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree also that Mike DeBartolo is not making that move on his own. That has to be approved. He may go to ownership and say, hey, I've got a deal. I think we should do it, and here's why. And then it's up to Mark Lerner and company to say, yes, that's the way it happened with Soto. It's the way, let's remember, in 2018, Mike Rizzo was kind of moving towards a Bryce Harper trade, reportedly with the Astros, and ownership said no, they didn't want to do it. So I think that's been the case for a while. And truthfully, I think it should be that way. I understand that you don't want ownership to get too involved in the day-to-day baseball operations, but things of that magnitude, I think it's appropriate for an owner to say yes or no to something like that. So I do agree with that part of it. And it's such a tough sell, even if there are baseball reasons to consider trading Gore or suggesting that we're starting all over again. That is a really tough sell for the organization to make to its fan base right now. I don't know how many people are willing to accept that. And again, while there may be some baseball reasons behind it, I think you also have to think from an ownership standpoint about what are the ramifications from a fan interest standpoint, from a ticket sales standpoint, everything else. If you're telling fans, hey, by the way, we're not going to be ready to win for another 4 or 5 years because we're going through this all over again, that's going to hurt you in the short term and maybe even in the long term as well. So barring some kind of massive offer that you can sell to everyone as, hey, we had to do this, I could understand why, even if DeBartolo had some interest in it, that ownership would say, no, we are not in the kind of position to be able to do that and convince our fan base that this is the right move to make right now.
Yeah, and you wouldn't want DeBartolo to trade Gore, and then you end up not going with DeBartolo as your next true GM. The next guy comes in and says, what were you doing trading Gore? I would love to have this piece. I believe we can contend in 2026, So that's part of the murkiness of all of this. We don't know who's running Nats baseball operations truly long-term, and yet we have these major decisions that need to be made imminently. And the person making them is of an interim nature. Now, maybe he's the guy beyond this interim tag. I think he could be. I like a lot about Mike DeBartolo. But until that tag gets removed, he's an interim guy. And so, you have this weird dynamic of the interim guy is being entrusted with making big long-term decisions right now.
I reserve the right to change my mind in the 12 days we still have until the trade deadline. But what you just said is the reason why deep down I think the moves we are likely to see are the guys on expiring contracts, the Kyle Finnegan, Michael Soroka, Josh Bell, those kind of moves. Maybe a Nathaniel Lowe, because you could make the case that you don't really see him as part of a team next year that's going to help you, not at the price that he's going to command in arbitration. But I think that's the reason why, yes, they're going to be sellers, but my guess is it's in a more conventional way that you would expect and not the kind of bold move that it's really tough to ask an interim GM to make if he doesn't know that he's in this for the long haul or not.
You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. Hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. Email us, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website you could check out as well, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on Priority Sports Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Well, there was an incident. What happened? punched Mickey Mantle in the mouth.
What?
Yeah, I punched him, and they took him to the hospital, and then they canceled the rest of the week.
You punched who in the mouth?
Mickey Mantle.
What happened?
Well, we were playing a game, and, I was pitching, and I was really, throwing some smoke. And Joe Pepitone, he was up, and man, that guy, he was crowding the plate.
Wow, Joe Pepitone.
Yeah, well, Joe Pepitone or not, I own the inside of that plate. So, I throw one, inside, a little chin music, right on his pants. Because I got to intimidate, when I'm on the mound. Well, the next pitch, he's right back in the same place. So I had to plunk him.
You plunked him?
Oh, yeah. Well, he throws down his bat. He comes racing up to the mound. Next thing, both benches are cleared, A brouhaha breaks out between the guys in the camp, and the old Yankee players. And as I'm trying to get Moose Scarron off of one of my teammates, somebody pulls me from behind, and I turned around and I popped him. I looked down and, whoa, man, it's Mickey. I punched his lights out.
The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet. For a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.